On August 1, 2025, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, an institution woven into the fabric of American life, announced its closure, sending ripples of disbelief and sadness across the nation. This moment marks the end of nearly 60 years of service, during which the CPB championed educational, cultural, and news programming that reached millions of Americans, from bustling cities to the most remote rural communities. The loss of federal funding forced this difficult decision, sending shockwaves through more than 1,500 local public TV and radio stations that have long relied on CPB support to stay on the air and serve their communities. For generations, the CPB ensured that every American, regardless of income, background, or location, had access to high-quality, non-commercial media. It brought trusted news, children's programming, and cultural stories into homes that might otherwise have been left in the dark. Its closure marks a profound shift in our nation's commitment to public service media, raising urgent questions about who will fill the void left behind. Journalists, producers, and storytellers now face an uncertain future, and the communities they served risk losing their vital connection to local and national stories. The CPB's demise is rooted in years of political battles, budget cuts, and shifting priorities in Congress. Lawmakers have long debated the value and necessity of publicly funded media, with some seeing it as essential to democracy, and others questioning its place in a changing media landscape. At the heart of the debate lies a fundamental disagreement over the role of publicly funded media in American society, whether it should be a protected public good or left to the forces of the private market. As we face this historic moment, we must recognize what's being lost, a unifying force that brought people together, sparked conversations, and reflected the diverse voices of our nation. Public media has long been a space where communities could see themselves, learn from one another, and engage in civil discourse. It was a platform for countless voices, artists, educators, activists, and everyday citizens who might never have been heard on commercial airwaves. It gave students a stage, local musicians an audience, and communities a sense of belonging. For decades, public media has been a beacon, illuminating American life with stories that inform, inspire, and connect us all. Its legacy is woven into the memories of generations who grew up with its programs and relied on its trusted reporting. Now, the future of public media in the United States is uncertain. With the loss of the CPB, access to trusted information, culture, and community storytelling is no longer guaranteed for all. The question remains, who will step forward to ensure that every American continues to have a voice and a place to be heard? To understand today's loss, we return to 1967, when President Lyndon B. Johnson signed the Public Broadcasting Act. The act created the CPB to ensure the airwaves served the public good, not just commercial interests. Inspired by the Carnegie Commission's warning that commercial TV failed the nation's educational needs, the CPB was designed as a firewall against political interference. It fostered the growth of PBS and NPR, providing seed money and ongoing support. This public-private partnership made public media both nationally connected and fiercely local. For nearly 60 years, the CPB helped build a media landscape that offered thoughtful conversation, artistic expression, and lifelong learning. Its closure marks a departure from that founding vision. The CPB was the backbone of public media, channeling federal funds to over 1,500 local stations. Its support launched iconic programs like Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and enabled trusted journalism on NPR and PBS. CPB funding covered essential costs, from music licensing to digital upgrades, keeping stations relevant and accessible. It was the great equalizer, ensuring high-quality media reached rural and underserved communities, not just big cities. For many, the local public station was the only source of news and culture. The CPB's stable funding base guaranteed every American access to local information and emergency alerts. Its closure severs the lifeline that connected diverse voices into a single national network. The campaign to defund the CPB was years in the making, fueled by accusations of liberal bias and fiscal irresponsibility. Tensions peaked in 2025 when President Trump fired CPB board members, undermining the corporation's independence. A sweeping executive order halted all federal funding for NPR and PBS, sparking legal challenges. The Public Broadcasting Act's protections were overridden by political maneuvering. This was part of a broader effort to target institutions seen as politically hostile. For supporters, the attack on public media was a fundamental mischaracterization of its nonpartisan mission. The legal fight over funding ended in Congress with the Rescissions Act of 2025, which clawed back $1.1 billion in advanced CPB funding. This act destroyed the long-term stability that public media relied on, leaving the CPB with no money to distribute. The bipartisan consensus that supported public media for decades fractured. In July, the Senate approved a budget with zero new funding for the CPB, an unprecedented move. With no federal support, the CPB's operational model collapsed. Most staff were let go by September 30, 2025, with a small team left to manage the shutdown. The wind-down marked the careful dismantling of a great American institution. The CPB's closure brought sorrow and resolve from public media leaders. Patricia Harrison, CPB's CEO, expressed gratitude for decades of trust and service. Local station managers like Bill Marrazzo of WHYY described the funding loss as our last swing at bat. NPR's Catherine Mayer announced an $8 million emergency fund to help vulnerable stations, acknowledging it couldn't replace federal support. These leaders' words reflect the human cost of the decision and a deep commitment to their communities. Even in crisis, public media's spirit of resilience and dedication endures. Their voices are a testament to the enduring mission of public service. The closure of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting is a direct blow to local communities, especially those in rural and underserved areas. For decades, the CPB has been a lifeline, ensuring that even the smallest towns have access to news, culture, and educational programming tailored to their needs. Without this support, the very fabric of local media is at risk of unraveling. For many small stations, CPB grants made up nearly half their budgets. Without them, survival is doubtful. These stations often operate on shoestring budgets, relying on a mix of federal support, community donations, and volunteer labor. The loss of CPB funding means that many will be forced to shut their doors, leaving communities without a trusted source of information. Layoffs and programming cuts began even before the final announcement, as seen at Pittsburgh's WQED. Dedicated journalists, producers, and support staff are losing their jobs, and the unique local stories they tell may never be heard again. The impact is not just financial, it's deeply personal for those who have devoted their lives to public service media. Educational children's shows, investigative journalism, and cultural programming are all at risk. These programs don't just entertain, they inform, inspire, and connect people of all ages. For many children, public media is their first introduction to science, history, and the arts. For adults, it's a vital source of local news and civic engagement. The intricate web of payments and rights managed by the CPB is unraveling, leaving stations in uncertainty. Licensing agreements, syndication deals, and collaborative projects are suddenly in limbo. Station managers are scrambling to find new sources of funding and to navigate a rapidly changing media landscape. Public media has been a fiercely independent, local alternative in an era of media consolidation. Unlike commercial outlets, these stations are accountable to their communities, not to shareholders or advertisers. They provide a platform for local voices, minority groups, and stories that might otherwise go untold. The loss of this public option will create news deserts and reduce access to reliable local information. In many places, public radio and TV are the only sources of in-depth reporting on local government, schools, and community events. Without them, misinformation and isolation are likely to grow. The ripple effect will be felt far beyond the walls of shuttered stations. A quieter, less informed, and less connected America, where the voices of small towns and diverse communities risk being lost in the noise. Ironically, the CPB's closure defied the wishes of most Americans. A July 2025 Harris poll showed 66% of Americans, including majorities of both parties, supported federal funding for public broadcasting. As the threat grew, communities responded with a surge in private donations to local stations. This grassroots support showed the deep connection people feel to public media. Yet, private giving can't replace the stable, structural support the CPB provided, especially for the smallest stations. The public's support is clear, but charity alone may not fill the void left by political decisions. The closure of the CPB marks a profound turning point in the story of American media. For decades, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting stood as a pillar of trust, education, and community connection, shaping the way millions of Americans understood the world around them. Its end signals more than just the loss of an institution. It closes the chapter on an era when media was guided by a mission to serve the public good, not just the bottom line. Generations grew up with programming that inspired curiosity, empathy, and civic engagement. The legacy of the CPB is woven into the lives of children who learned their ABCs from public television, students who discovered new worlds through documentaries, and families who found common ground in shared stories. It lives on in the preservation of local histories, the celebration of diverse voices, and the storytelling that brought communities together across generations. But the void left behind is vast and deeply felt. Local stations, once vibrant hubs of information and culture, now face an uncertain future. Many will struggle to survive without the support and resources the CPB provided. Original reporting and unique programming will shrink, leaving communities with fewer sources of reliable news and fewer opportunities to see themselves reflected on screen or over the airwaves. Without the unifying force of the CPB, public media risks becoming fragmented, with some regions thriving while others are left behind. The gap between rural and urban stations will widen, deepening inequality and limiting access to quality programming for many Americans. The loss of a trusted common source of information threatens not only our democracy, but also the educational mission that has long been at the heart of public media. Yet in the face of this uncertainty, the enduring support from the American people offers a glimmer of hope. Across the country, communities are rallying to protect the values and voices that public media represents. The fight for public media's future now shifts to the local level, where citizens, leaders, and storytellers must come together to reimagine what public service media can be. The spirit of public media endures in the communities it served, in every classroom, library, and living room touched by its programming. Its future will be decided not in boardrooms, but in the everyday actions of citizens who believe in the power of shared stories and informed voices. One listener, one community at a time, will shape the next chapter of public media's legacy.